There are 15 million errors from drugs every year in the United States, and there are 400,000 deaths from taking medications, and there are 2 million hospitalizations. That's a lot of problems from taking medications.
Absolutely. And so we've got a major problem in our hands. And how do we deal with that?
Well, the FDA says that the problem is the warning labels on the drugs.
Right. So somebody does a study, all right, and they're looking to see in 50-year-olds what, by measuring their eye gaze when they're looking at a bottle of pills and looking at the label on it, to see how many of these 50-year-olds are going to actually look and scan and read what's on the label. And as it turns out, they didn't notice the warning on the prescription, about 50% of them, and about 22% never even saw the label. When you look at younger people, it's different. In 20 to 30-year-olds, about 90% of these people were looking at the warning on that was on the label, and I'm wondering how much doctors are paying attention to that too. Even though they're supposed to know this, it's not what they focus on.
Well, you know how I think they could learn to do a better label? Just look at the companies in the health food store that are writing their labels on the boxes of food, you know. People, that gets people's attention. Now, sometimes in a grocery store, you'll see a big label that'll say it's organic strawberries or something. And then if you really read the ingredients, there aren't any. They're artificial strawberries.
Okay, well, we don't pay attention to the labels, and that's one problem. But the real problem is that what we should be focusing on, is the labels? It's like looking at the brake light, noticing it's there, and then not paying attention to it. That's not what the problem is. The brake light's on for a reason, and it's the same thing when we've got drugs that are having 400,000 deaths a year and 2 million hospitalizations.
So the problem is that the drugs are too dangerous.
The drugs are dangerous, and they shouldn't be our first choice. They should be our last choice. And it's not like we should get rid of them, but it shouldn't be the kind of thing that we're relying on as a silver bullet, meaning that we don't have to take responsibility ourselves. And that's where real good medicine is practiced. So we have to do something to train our MDs to not think so much about just what the drug does, but look at the side effects as the primary thing. For example, you look at the statin drugs. We need to know they cause liver problems, they cause muscle weakness, they can put you at risk for type 2 diabetes, they can cause muscle necrosis, and they can cause kidney damage and death, they can cause peripheral neuropathies, and I could go on with more. This needs to be something we focus on a lot.
And we hear things like this on TV with the direct-to-consumer ads, but nobody pays attention. They zone out and with all the flowery music and so forth. Because if you really listen to them, it's like, who in their right mind would really want to take that medicine?
Exactly.
But I think that people would be more careful about taking meds if their doctors explained it to them a little bit ahead of time. Well, you know, like if the doctor said to them, you know, when you take this particular medication, you're not to drink alcohol or you're not to drive a car.
Well, they're pushing that off on the pharmacists. I went and got a prescription filled today for someone. And when I was there, they said, well, let me take some time and explain to you what it is. And I said, thank you, but I'm a doctor. I already know it, but that's great that you do that. So we take a lot of those things for granted. We look at the positive things that the drugs do because we want to know the benefits. Even things like antihistamines. You say, oh, go buy some antihistamine over the counter and it's not going to be a problem. But let me tell you, it was about 20 years ago that 2 antihistamines were taken off the market, Seldane and Hisbanol. And why?
Because you could get fatal cardiac arrhythmias if you took erythromycin or a fungicide with it.
Exactly. So that's a huge thing. And then do we look at the fact that these things have other complications as well? If you're on drugs because you have Alzheimer's disease and you're trying to raise your acetylcholine levels, some of the antihistamines will lower it. And if you have a prostate problem, it may make it so you can't urinate because it causes the response of the prostate to relax around the urethra not happen. Or if you have glaucoma, that's a problem. Well, those aren't usual things, in fact, that the doctors talk about. In fact, you don't really pay attention to that when you buy these things over the counter because you think because it's over the counter that's totally safe.
Well, the other thing is, too, is that the inserts with the medications are so lengthy. Some of them are pages and pages. And
they are.
And you can read
they have
all
little
those.
tiny print. You can't even see it. And that doesn't really attract our attention, because what we're focused on is, well, my doctor thinks it's going to help this problem. And I don't want to change my lifestyle. I don't want to fix my hypertension by doing exercise and more sleep and stress reduction and all that. Just give me the pill and leave me alone because I'm busy. And that's the mentality we have. So warning labels aren't going to solve our problem. And the fact that we don't pay attention to them is not a surprise, because we've been brainwashed to think that it's not our job to do that. And they're probably just fine because the FDA's approved them. Well, let me tell you, the FDA's not on your side a lot of the time. There are too many conflicts of interest that put drugs on the market that shouldn't. And the example of that is the black box warnings. About 20% of the time when a new drug comes out, within a couple of years, it's got a black box warning or it's been taken off the market. So we have to take more responsibility ourselves.
So we're guinea pigs when we start taking these drugs.
Exactly.
That's how they decide whether to put a black box warning on it or not.
That's right. So we need to take more responsibility ourselves. Our doctors need to have a different kind of training that's more open to natural therapies first and drugs maybe as the last thing. And if we do that, we won't have to worry so much about drug warnings as something that's going to solve this kind of problem.